I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of our shooting program, and welcome to today's show. We do have a great one for you. It's such a pretty afternoon. Yes, it is a great day to be out shooting. I'll tell you what, every nice afternoon we have, certainly this time of year, is much and greatly appreciated. Well, friends, I tell you what, we have a lot going on. The judge has some things to tell you. We have some features I think you're really going to enjoy, so let's get another shooting show underway. Friends, we're going to look at a really interesting handgun today. This is the Desert Eagle. This gun is in .44 Magnum, this particular one. They make them in several different calibers. The first ones, I believe, were in .357 Magnum, and they also made a .41. They make a .44 Magnum. They also make the big .50 Action Express, also in this same model. I believe it's on a slightly bigger platform than this. However, this is a .44 Magnum. It's imported by Magnum Research. They're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this is made by IMI, the Israel Military Industry. So I tell you what, those folks over there certainly ought to know how to make a very fine, working, and accurate, and functioning gun, because the Israelis have been fighting, well, for longer than most of us can remember. Anyway, moving along, these are really unique handguns. We're typically used to seeing the 1911 or the Browning style guns. The Browning guns are recoil operated. Well, the Desert Eagle is not a recoil operated gun. It is a gas operated gun, very much like we're used to the gas operated Mini 14s, the AR-15 type guns, the 742 Remingtons, those sorts of things. And this is a gas operated handgun. Now, we had one of these on the program some time ago, and these guns typically are very, very well made. They function really well. I'll tell you what, it's a pretty good trick to get a rimmed revolver cartridge to function in a semi-automatic pistol magazine. Well, these guns, this particular one, the .44, has an 8-round magazine, giving you a total of 9 possible, counting the one in the chamber there. And this particular gun was traded for by our friends over at Britton's in Shreveport, and you know, it's fun. You never know what they're going to come up with next, and we get to see a lot of those things on the program, the things that we think you would find interesting. Anyway, the Desert Eagle is an expensive gun, and honestly, it's about the same size as our 6-inch barrel. This is our Smith & Wesson .44 Magnum Hunter Classic, and they're darn near the same size. The Desert Eagle, believe it or not, is quite a bit heavier. This thing weighs, on our scale, it's at about 4 pounds or so, somewhere there. And the typical revolver, such as your Super Blackhawk, a lot of people think the Super Blackhawks are heavy, but they're really not as compared to some other guns of its type. Quite a bit heavier, about 25% or so heavier than the 7.5-inch Ruger Super Blackhawk. Now, the Desert Eagle has it looks to be sort of a cross between regular rifling and polygonal type rifling. It's not real sharp, but it's real pretty. These things are machined. I say real pretty. The finish and all is so nice on these guns. You can tell a lot of care went into the manufacture of the tolerances on these guns. It's still, even with the underlug barrel on our Smith & Wesson 629 Hunter Classic here, it's still quite a bit heavier than our revolver. Now, this is one of those guns that say, well, what's it for? It's really heavy. It still has a substantial amount of recoil. In fact, let's look at a little recoil right now, get my hearing protectors in. Let's take a shot with it and let you watch it in my hands. And this is a single action gun. The hammer has to be cocked, and of course every time the gun functions, every time it fires, it will recock itself. It has a safety here on the side that works exactly opposite what we're used to on the Browning type, Colt type guns. It's closer to, say, some of the other guns that have a push-up safety. You push the safety up and it goes off. This particular gun has a rather heavy trigger. It's an 8-pound trigger, whereas we're used to 3.5, 4, 5-pound triggers on our single-action semi-automatics, and certainly on the better revolvers you're looking at 3 or so pounds. But I don't know why these guns have, or this particular one has, such a heavy trigger. I'm assuming that most of them do. I don't know why. Maybe it's they're concerned about litigation from having a too light trigger. Maybe because you don't have a grip safety. Friends, what happens here with this safety, of course, you push it up for off, and it doesn't lock the slide such as it would on a 1911. Of course, some of the others don't either. some of the other safeties that work like this that are slide mounted rather than frame mounted don't lock the action either. I don't know how I would carry this gun. That's a debate that's ongoing here right now, because I'm not sure I would be comfortable carrying this gun with the hammer cocked and safety on. I might want to carry it with the hammer down, safety off. It would just bear some using in the field and trying it. Anyway, let's take a look at it in my hands and just check the recoil out with a full charge load, a 44 Magnum 240 grain Federal load. That's what we happen to have handy here today. Okay, a substantial amount of recoil. We'll put that on safe. Now let's try our single action Super Blackhawk. Well, the Super Blackhawk has quite a bit more upchuck due to the grip shape here, but I'm not sure it really had any more felt recoil, even though it is lighter. And now our double action Smith & Wesson. See what it looks like in recoil, one-handed here, just for exaggeration purposes, so you can see it. Well, the Smith & Wesson somewhere between the two. It doesn't have quite as much this way, say, as the Super Blackhawk, because you have a grip shape that will certainly stop the recoil higher in your hand there. But it's hard to say. They're different sensations. Well, let's try this. Let's try 2 shots, and for quickness, let's say you had a bear trying to gnaw on your arm here and you need to shoot 2 times real quickly. Let's see how that looks. Put our safety off here. Okay, certainly you can shoot the Desert Eagle rapidly. Let's try our single action. 2 quick shots. Fairly quick. And let's try our double action revolver. So actually, I think what you're seeing here is there's no appreciable difference as far as practical shooting speed between the semi-automatics and the revolvers for 2 quick shots with the heavy bullets. It is a different sensation. Notice we had 3 bullets in the magazine there. We shot all 3 of them. Of course, it locks back. Well, let's take a look at it a little bit closer and show you how it works. Our friends is looking here at the Desert Eagle. It is a very nicely machined gun. The bottom part of the slide here is stainless and the top part is blue. You can get these in a number of different combinations as far as finishes go. It is definitely a big and a massive handgun. In my size large hands, I tell you what, it's a long, of course the grip has to be long because of the magnum length cartridges, but it is definitely a handful. This is the takedown lever right here. You push this and push this little lever down, and then your barrel assembly will come off. And of course, the way the gun works, it is a gas action, and what that means is what happens on this particular gun, when the gun fires, you have some gas ports down here in the barrel that will actually push on this piston. I think you can see it right inside there. The little round thingamajiggy there is your, boy, isn't that technical language there? The round piece there is your piston, and literally it pushes the action back. And of course you have a rotary bolt here, very similar to what we're used to seeing on the AR-15, something like that. And you have a double spring arrangement, a very fine recoil spring arrangement there. It is definitely going to contain those magnum forces heading to the rear, and certainly going to close the action. Of course, you'll pick up another shell from the magazine and it will reload itself. This particular gun has the Trijicon night sights. They're easy to see in the daytime, but at night you can still see them. I think these things have a guarantee of around 10 years. I'm not exactly sure, but they're very, very fine sights that are available for many handguns out there, many sorts of guns for that matter. To refresh your memory on what a recoil or Browning type action is, this is our gun sight pistol here, the gun sight 45, but what happens when you shoot a standard recoil type action like this Browning design, and we know, yes, we know this gun is empty, we've checked it several times. When you shoot the gun, the slide and the barrel start back. Now nothing happens except they both start to move for a short distance. Now then, once you get past that short distance, which is right here, the barrel drops down out of the slide. The slide continues rearward, ejecting the spent case, picking up another one from the magazine, and then reloading itself. Watch the barrel pop back up into the slide. See there, it comes up and it's locked into the slide here. And this is a very common arrangement most recoil operated guns use, whereas the Desert Eagle is done by gas pressure. Well, friends, you can see the magazines are a very massive and well made piece here. Like I said, it's a pretty good trick to get revolver cartridges to feed well into a semi-automatic gun, but these folks really have their engineering worked out. Put the magazine in the base, and it's a Colt type arrangement, Browning type. Here's your magazine release right here, and let's see what it'll do out here at 20 yards. So we'll go ahead and put our safety in the on position. Down is on, and of course up is fire. So go ahead and pull that slide all the way to the rear and let it go, and let's see what happens. We'll push our safety off, and let's just see here. Got our steel plate. Yes, in fact. Now, friends, I tell you what, a Desert Eagle is not the most common handgun going out there. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and shoot it from sandbags out here at our 25-yard rest. And let's see what it'll do as far as some groups on some 5-shot 44 Magnum groups we're going to shoot. Go ahead and pull that slide all the way to the rear. Get our sandbags here in place. Get a comfortable stance. Hearing protection in real good. Of course, these things are loud. Push our safety off. Okay, well, let's get some groups here, shoot some more, and see how it does. You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today. Well, friends, you can see our lovely and talented program assistant here is holding a Mossberg 590. In fact, the Tri-Tote is holding the Mossberg 590 shotgun, and this is such a neat carrying system for any long gun or fishing rod either, for that matter. You can have hands free and walk around all through the woods or do some climbing, whatever else, in safety. This is really a great idea. Let's see it in action.
Get your hands off that gun, bow or fishing rod. Holding onto your equipment while you're going through the woods or climbing a hill is fatiguing and possibly dangerous. The versatile Tri-Tote all-season carrier is easy to use. You never have to drill a hole in your fine gun stock. And the Tri-Tote can be set up for your specific needs in a jiffy. Just follow the illustrated instructions and free demo video enclosed. There you are, hands-free, yet ready to shoot in an instant. Hunting and fishing have never been more enjoyable. With Tri-Tote, your equipment is secure and your hands are free to support yourself or carry other gear. How did you ever get along without Tri-Tote? Make this year's hunting and fishing the best ever. To order your Tri-Tote at this special TV price, call toll-free 1-800-231-1443. That's 1-800-231-1443.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Now friends, we've gotten our target here. We ran on several groups with the gun. These are two of our better ones here, and I think this is going to be fairly representative of what the gun will do. This is, we had some Federal 240 grain jacket hollow point. Again, these are full charge loads here. This one went 5 shots into 2.2 inches at 25 yards. We have another group here, Federal Hydra Shocks, and this one went 2.4 inches, 5 shots. So actually, what we're seeing here is, it's pretty good accuracy, and probably if with a lighter trigger, this 8-pound trigger is something to fight when you're going for little groups. Now I'll show you something that, and we know this gun's unloaded yet. Show you something interesting. This gun, whoever had owned this gun previous, and for all practical purposes, it is just brand new. I mean, it just doesn't look like it's been shot hard at all. It came with an Ernie Hill speed holster. Now this is something we would be accustomed to seeing at an IPSC match, because literally you can have the gun in the holster and it will be secure, has a number of different adjustments on it, and the arrangement or the advantage here is you can draw the gun just a little bit up and start out of the holster with it, so it is very fast. Now as I understand it, this holster, this particular gun, would be somewhat of an expensive retail proposition, because one, these are not inexpensive guns. Certainly the Desert Eagles with the Trigicon sights, the night sights, the tritium sights are certainly somewhat expensive, and this holster is also expensive. And I don't know if just what I think the whole package goes together, and Britain's had about $1,000 or so marked on it, and the gun also comes with a spare magazine. So if any of you out there would like to own this particular gun, if they don't already have a sale for it, well, you might give Britain's in Shreveport a call, because this is really a unique package. I really can't imagine why someone would, for a gun like this, would want a speed holster unless maybe bowling pin shoots. It's just too much gun to use on, say, for an IPSC type course, but maybe for bowling pins, you know, the 44 Magnum definitely takes them off. You can work with this gun and get pretty fast with it. So maybe that's what it's for. I really don't know, but it's certainly interesting. Ernie Hill holsters are very, very fine pieces of leather. It's really a nice piece of engineering work too. So one other thing I do want to mention about the Desert Eagle, they do have some limitations, and we chronographed this particular gun against our Smith & Wesson 6-inch barrel here revolver, and actually this is a 6-inch barrel on the Desert Eagle, and for some unknown reason the revolver's a little faster. We were getting from 1250, 1275 average velocities with the 240 grain ammunition, whereas the Smith & Wesson runs 1300, 1350 with the same ammo. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. Some of them are faster than others. I know the Desert Eagles are available with several different barrel lengths, but this would seem to be the optimal length. It's a 6-inch barrel. Is still a nice and portable package. You cannot shoot lead bullets in the Desert Eagles, and the reason why is since you have the gas operation, literally the lead will clog up the ports, the gas ports that operate your action. So don't ever do that. There are some very fine cast bullets out there we shoot in revolvers and some of the recoil operated guns, but with a gas gun you can't shoot a lead bullet, because that lead will really get in those little holes there, and they are small holes, so you just don't want to do that. So you're limited to jacketed ammunition in the 44 Magnum. Now friends, let's run an experiment here that I think you may find interesting. Typically a gun like this would be carried, if you weren't going to shoot bowling pins with it, a lot of people might carry this gun as a backup gun to a rifle, or a handgun as far as a fishing trip, maybe in Alaska or the western United States, where you might run into bears. And honestly, any 44 Magnum or any handgun for that matter is going to be a little bit light against a large brown bear, something like that. But I tell you what, it would certainly beat nothing. And again, if your accuracy is good, well, it's pretty amazing what you can do with a handgun. Well, let's just try this Desert Eagle, because that's why a lot of us would want one of these guns, thinking it would aid our speed in shooting on multiple targets. And let's just see what it does in comparison to a single action revolver and our double action revolver here. Let's just see what it does. We have some targets set out here at a few yards, and what we're going to do, we're going to shoot 3 targets, the 2 paper targets and the steel plate, because let's simulate maybe a bear's running at us, maybe a lion. In fact, that is another consideration. In some parts of the country now, mountain lions have gotten pretty darn brave and are really starting to cause some problems for some folks. And and this would be a contender for lion medicine, believe me. Now friends, I'm not sure how I would carry the Desert Eagle. Most of you probably would carry it hammer down, safety on. Only problem is, when you do that, it is slow to get into action. Normally, I like a handgun that I can manipulate one-handed and doesn't take very long to do it. That's one of the advantages the double action or the single action revolvers have for your first shot. It's very quick to get into action. So what we're going to do here, we're going to give our Desert Eagle a shall we say, fighting chance here against the other two. I'll go ahead and cock it and push the safety on, and we'll go from the low ready position. We have our 2 paper targets and our steel plate. So we have our pro timer here. We'll go ahead and punch it, get my hearing protection in good, because yes, these things are loud. All 44 Magnums are going to be loud. And let's get on the way. Remember, only hits count. We can't, none of us ever will have enough bullets to spray out there and pray it hits something. That's just not how it works. Go ahead and punch the timer, get in position. Well, I was 94 seconds, 94 hundredths of a second from my first shot. Now then, honestly, the Desert Eagle is as reliable probably as semi-automatics get, but guess what? We had a malfunction, so I don't know why. But it's just one of those things. This is the slide lock back. The slide lock came on. Maybe my thumb got against it, but these are reasons we have to go out and shoot our guns to become familiar with them. Yes, we can get it going again by pushing that slide lock down, and it's ready to shoot again. So let's try that 3-shot drill again. Let's load our magazine again. Again, give the gun a fair trial here. Got one hole over that paper target. We'll just see what it looks like. Okay, our gun is, in fact, check it. Yes, it is loaded. Safety on. Let's punch our timer, see what it does. Okay, 1.98 seconds. And our hits were good. My friends, that took 1.98 seconds. And we've taped our targets, have our steel plate back up. Let's try the same drill with our single action revolver, see how long those 3 shots take. Low ready position. Well, all good hits. Plate's knocked over. 2.09 seconds. So we're just about 1/10 of a second away. We're using the single action, certainly cocking under recoil, letting the gun work with us there. 2.09 seconds for our single action revolver. So we picked up about 1/10 there. All right, friends, let's try. We're shooting the same ammunition, all 3 guns here. Let's try our double action revolver on the same 3 targets. Punch our timer. Okay, and all good hits, 1.64 seconds. So we actually picked up about 3/10. Now then, of course, I didn't have to push a safety off on this double action revolver. So like we said earlier, there's just not a lot of difference. These are in my hands today, and of course, as I've said many times on the program, I'm just your average shooter with a little practice, and some of you would do better, some of you do worse, but that's just a little demonstration there of what we're looking at as far as times. Well, friends, I tell you, I always enjoyed the Desert Eagle guns because they are so well made. It's really a unique engineering exercise. Who the heck knows why these folks decided to make these guns like they did, but they are a really fine package as far as the way they work. Strength for days. That rotary bolt, my goodness, there's no telling what cartridge that one of these guns could contain. But they really are nice packages. They're not inexpensive. And like I had mentioned earlier, our good friends at Britton's do have this gun on sale for around $1,000. That includes the Ernie Hill holster and certainly the night sights that came on it. So the Desert Eagle 44 Magnum, a good choice if you like semi-automatics in high-powered calibers. Well, this would be a good choice. Certainly, and I tell you what, friends, I can't overstate this, every semi-automatic will malfunction. All moving mechanisms, for that matter. As I've said before, we have managed at one time or another to lock every last one of these types of guns up. But your semi-automatics are more prone to a mechanical or a malfunction of some sort, a jam up, whatever you want to call it. And if you go out and you want to depend on one of these guns to defend your life against an animal or whatever kind of attack, you have to go through learning to use the gun, learning to clear a malfunction, because every semi-automatic is going to malfunction at some time. Like I said, if you've got a semi-automatic that has not malfunctioned, has not jammed, well, it's okay, you just hadn't shot it enough. I don't make this up. I mean, that's what we really see. And I like these guns. I like the semi-automatics, but certainly you must go through, if you're going to depend on it to defend your life against an animal or something like that attack, well, what you have to do is learn how to quickly clear a malfunction in any of these things. So, okay, the Desert Eagle 44 Magnum. A lot of power in a semi-automatic gas-operated package.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it. You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE, and those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. You know, friends, it's rare in any field of manufacture that one particular company has a clear-cut advantage over the others. Well, in this case, it's Corbin Ammunition, Corbin Bullet Company, because they make the best handgun, long gun, and even some specialty caliber ammunition that's been real hard to get in the past. If you really want your handgun or rifle to perform at their absolute best, you need to find some Corbin ammunition. For information on where you can get Corbin, information on their product line, call them. Corbin Bullet Company, 1-800-626-7266. Again, give them a call. It's a free call, 1-800-626-7266. Trust me on this one. Corbin is the best there is. The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. Friends, we hope you're enjoying our program. My esteemed colleague here, Leroy Scott, and myself. Well, Judge, let me show you. You see this Mossberg 590. The good folks at Mossberg sent me this.
That's one you won.
Yes, sir. In fact, I did. Yes, I won that in a little shoot match over there with the other gun press over there, which you and I both competed. I would also like to add, I think you won your category there. I don't think.
They just didn't have a category for me, Johnny.
Well, I was very pleased how that turned out for you. But we will be giving, this is the Mossberg 590 with the ghost ring sights. And that's a really neat thing. You have very fast target acquisition. We will be doing a complete road test on this particular shotgun shortly. It has the speed feed stock. It carries 4 rounds in the stock there, and heck of a nice package. You know,
How many rounds does it carry in the magazine?
holds 8 in the magazine, 12 gauge, which is this. In fact, is our official military, the U.S. military shotgun.
What's the length of that barrel?
20, a little over 20 inches. And it has a number of very desirable features, one of which is parkerized, very resistant to corrosion, it doesn't reflect much light. I like that. You know, someone had written in a while back asking why I held, during our conversation here, why I typically held a black type gun like an AR-15 or today this shotgun or whatever else. You know what, friends? This would be one of the prettiest things you could possibly see. If your home was under invasion, or you had someone trying to rob or hurt someone in your family, even yourself, I don't think it'd be much prettier than this Mossberg shotgun. Do you?
Well, it'd certainly be damn handy.
well, honestly, these are very functional and reliable guns, and you know that's one thing we want to do. We want to associate. See, there's nothing wrong, and see, this gun is behaving itself extremely well here because this gun is nothing more than a machine. And we want people to understand that the position in our homes of firearms is an honored position, because literally one of these guns could spell the difference between life and death or a terrible thing happening to someone in our family. Literally, the firearm should resume its honored position. I'm quoting Thomas Jefferson here. I'm certainly thinking about one of the things he said about the place of firearms in the home is something of such importance and deserving of much respect. And one other little thing I want to add, we had one of our good viewers in Oklahoma City who is a law enforcement officer, and we had reported...
No, we didn't report it. I quoted somebody...
Exactly.
Who had a question, and we did not report the thing that you're talking about, but go ahead.
We passed along some, shall we say, widely reported information that the ATF officers were not in their office the day of the Oklahoma bombing, and this a friend of ours up there, I say because he's a good viewer of our program, he was there right at that time when it happened, and said there were actually 3 agents, and said the others had legitimate excuses why they weren't there that day. We do appreciate that.
How many agents were there?
He said there were 3 in the building that day.
How many total?
I don't know. There were several others that were out in the field doing other things. One, I think, had to work late and didn't come in early on time, but there were actually 3 there. And I'm reporting that what he said.
I understood there were about 15 agents based there.
Well, we sincerely appreciate our viewers' call and that information, and we certainly don't want to give any impression of anything that may or may not be exactly as has been reported, and so we do want to add that bit of information there. So, all right, sir, I know you have several things you want to talk about.
Well, I have faxes from the NRA. I have letters and newsletters from GOA. I also have a couple of letters from people that watch our show. Let's talk first about something I got from NRA. The Clinton administration has celebrated the Brady Act's 2nd year this week and issued a press release claiming 60,000 criminals had been denied firearms since the act took effect. Well, let's see, 60,000 criminals. That's a lot. However, the Government Accounting Office says only 7 prosecutions have resulted. That's pretty darn poor law enforcement if that's what's happened. What's actually happened has been that violent crime trends are worse in states that have Brady than those that where Brady is not in effect. Many of the people that were listed among this 60,000, quote, criminals, unquote, were people that had traffic tickets, parking violations, what have you. If there have been only 7 prosecutions, I can't see very much validity in a claim that 60,000 criminals have been denied guns. It sounds to me like one of my law teachers had an expression for that, talking about how products are touted and so on. She said it's dealer puffing.
Well, I think you have a definite case there of Clinton dealer puffing. That's outrageous. It's ridiculous.
Second, Congress reconvenes this week and has an agenda for March that is very, very important. NRA thinks we're going to get a vote on the on repealing the Brady bill and possibly even repealing the gun ban that's in the crime bill. Of course, that's questionable because that was promised last year by the House and Senate leadership. And incidentally, I can give some advice to Senator Dole.
What's that?
If he wants to get going in his campaign. Now he won Georgia. South Carolina. That's the first state he's won.
Well, he won Arizona, didn't he?
No, Forbes won Arizona.
That's right. You're right. Forbes won Arizona. That's right. Where am I today?
Now, Dole is ahead in delegates at the moment, but if he really wants to get further ahead, let him carry out his pledges to gun owners, and let's get rid of some of these anti-gun laws. There's 60 million gun owners in this country, and spouses, incidentally, and they aren't necessarily convinced that Dole is as much on gun owners' side as the NRA thinks he is. The only one I've heard give clear expression of this is Pat Buchanan. Anyhow, the anti-terrorism bill is supposed to be up. That's a bad bill as it stands. There's all sorts of stuff in it. Representative Chuck Schumer, wants to introduce his gun rationing bill, and he wants to introduce his study for bullet bans, and the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control has been using a substantial portion of its $43 million taxpayer-funded budget to pay for anti-gun studies, and that's some of the funds we want to cut off. We've got a lot of stuff here on individual states, and I really don't have time to get into those. Those of you in the various states might like to get on the NRA fax network. You can do it by calling them on telephone, 1-800-392-8683. I'll repeat that in a few minutes, so get yourself a pencil and a piece of paper. Gun Owners of America sent me a newsletter this week, or this month, the February issue, and they are really concerned about that anti-terrorism bill because there's so many bad things about it. GOA says the bill will be more aptly termed the government terror bill.
More than an anti-terrorism bill.
More than an anti-terrorism bill. That bill would put a severe restriction on law-abiding gun owners' rights and contain provisions that may very well threaten the entire gun industry. It has all sorts of bad provisions in it. It's so loaded with them that the best thing to do is just to urge your representatives to vote against it.
Friends, this is something that's got to be done because, we as gun owners have for so long let somebody else worry about what was going to be legislated, and that is so important. Judge, you were talking a while back. Some of our viewing audience do not realize the importance of the legislative action because that's where we lose our rights. It's in the legislative branch of things is where this trash gets passed. And if we don't stop it, if we don't stand up as individuals, if we don't vote the right way, if we don't make the phone calls to our representatives and to our senators, we're going to lose everything. This is the process that has to be done. It is really disturbing to me when people say, well, why are we so concerned about politics? If you don't get concerned about politics, about what's going on, we're not going to have any rights left.
Johnny, you've been well indoctrinated. I congratulate you.
It's not. It's frustrated, I think, more than anything else, because the anti-gun people are rolling right along with their agenda, with the things that they are bound and determined to do. This fight is not going away, friends. This is something that has to be done day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year.
Let me tell you what that terrorism bill does. It has serious infringements on the First, Second, Fourth, Sixth, Ninth, and 10th Amendments. Now,
in the Bill of Rights, friends, this is our Bill of Rights.
It gives the FBI enhanced authority to obtain the names of the banks at which one maintains accounts, one's address, employer, employment history, complete records about the airline flights that you've taken, the cars you've rented, the hotels in which you've stayed. What business is it of the government about what hotel I stay in?
It's none. It's none. You know, just like I heard an interviewer from Israel today, and they had another suicide bombing over there. You know, friends, there are always going to be nuts in the world. There's no possible way, literally, if they put everyone in a jail cell with some sort of mechanized security device, if that's what some of these folks want, is going to trade all of their freedom for the ultimate security, yeah, a jail cell, a solitary confinement. There's no way that every act of terrorism can ever be stopped. It's not possible.
Did you know that that terrorism bill allows the government to use secret evidence against individuals? That
What does
they
that
never
mean?
get a chance to find out what the evidence is.
What does that mean? That means, friends, that your government could, you know, and you think everybody in government's honest? I mean, let's start at the White House and head down. You think all these people are honest? That really, that's inconceivable, that secret evidence could be used against anybody. You know, I don't know, it makes me so angry, and that's well, anyway, go ahead.
No, I think you're doing fine, John. Keep it
Well,
up.
the thing is that literally we as free people literally are going to be overrun by the people who want to disarm us and take away all our rights if we don't stand up. And you know what? I think that's one reason this is one of the very most important things that we do for our viewing audience, is tell them what is happening, because, friends, the legislative arena is where the action is. Now, this is true.
Well, Johnny, I have a letter here from a member of the House of Representatives in Louisiana. I won't mention his name. He's fussing that GOA sent out a letter opposing him, and he's claiming that his opponent is listen to this, is reported to be a member of the Aryan nations. Reported to be.
Yeah.
You know, that's a kind of a backhanded slur that was used against George Wallace for years, when they said that he won election, and they went back and recapitulated the vote, and he lost. I don't like the letter because it contains provisions that are slanderous and slurring. Now, maybe he did win the election. That's fine. Maybe he's a good man. I have no doubt about that. But I don't like to see things like talking about his opponent, who's reported to be a member of the Aryan nations. He talks about Larry Pratt. He doesn't like Larry. He says he's a very partisan person. That's true.
That's true.
Who uses means that are detrimental to a functioning democracy. Now, I don't know how the freedom of speech is detrimental to a functioning democracy, and besides, this isn't a democracy, it's a constitutional republic.
Speaking of that, our friend Pat Buchanan has, you know, if you're over the target, you get the most flack, folks. Just remember that. That's a good line I picked up from Ken Hamlin recently.
Then he talks about Larry Pratt. He says he's very slanted in favor of members of the extreme right, and then he says Aryan nations and KKK. Now, that's a bunch of nonsense. I know Larry Pratt.
Oh, yeah. We know Larry very well.
And I've heard him speak, and I have engaged in philosophical discussions with him. He is as interested in preserving the provisions of the Bill of Rights and freedom as anybody I know. I'd put him up with you, too, Johnny.
Well, I appreciate that, Judge. Larry is not a white supremacist. We're not either. Larry is one of the nicest people that you could have the pleasure of knowing and meeting. Absolutely, this has been a whole campaign orchestrated by the liberal media in order to hurt Pat Buchanan's chances.
Well, this letter goes on. It says that Larry Pratt uses the Gun Owners of America organization to mislead and influence others in a biased and unprofessional manner.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
If you are a boater or a birder, if you ever carry a camera, Bi-Tote is for you. It is the most comfortable binocular and camera carrier on the market today. And its all-elastic quick change feature makes it possible to switch from one piece of equipment to another without missing a beat. If you think that carrying binoculars or cameras is a pain in the neck, try Bi-Tote. For the first time, your equipment will feel almost weightless, and you'll be free of that annoying swinging and bouncing which is hard on your body as well as the equipment, especially when you're negotiating rough terrain or on a pitching boat. One hand for you, one hand for the boat, and Bi-Tote for your binoculars or camera. They'll be ready for you instantly, held firmly in position. They're always there, not buried in a locker or other out-of-the-way place. And the Bi-Tote is totally adjustable for a custom fit. All necessary adapters and complete instructions are included with your Bi-Tote. How did you ever get along without it?
This business of a biased and unprofessional manner, it is a broad brush that's used to tar somebody, and somebody that you don't have anything specific to talk about. Now, yes, I am biased in favor of the Bill of Rights, and I remember something Barry Goldwater said that I really, really appreciated when he got nominated for president. He said that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Extremism in the pursuit of liberty is no vice.
And you know, that's interesting. You said that now because Barry Goldwater was crucified because that statement was so misconstrued and so chopped and edited, it made Barry Goldwater look like someone else entirely.
I thought it was an excellent statement.
It is an excellent statement. You know, friends, what we're all in support of, what all of us here on this program and so many of our friends and supporters out here all across this country, we're in pursuit of each other's individual liberties. We want us all to be free. You know, we don't want to restrict people. We don't want to have all this unnecessary surveillance on people. Let's live and let live. What's wrong with that?
Well, now this particular legislator, and I don't know him. I hope to get to meet him. He says that Pratt was against him and endorsed his opponent because he didn't vote to have a veto session to override our former governor's veto of the concealed carry bill. And he uses an excuse for that. He says, well, we didn't have enough votes to do it, so I voted against it. Well, then, just think about that. We didn't have enough votes to pass it, so I voted against it.
Heck of a note.
I don't think that's a very good reason. And this business of extreme right and extreme left and the use of these terms, there's a little book, a little pamphlet called The Myth of the Right and the Left. And I said before once I was going to get hold of a copy of it and reprint it. I can't find my copies of it. I have several, and I think I will reprint it, and I'll make it available to our viewing audience, because that is a myth, the right and the left. You're automatically bad if you're on the right, but you're okay on the left. Now, who's the left? That's the liberals.
Mhm.
That's the liberals. It's the communists, the extreme left, the extreme right. I suppose they want to call it Nazism. Well, what's the difference in communism and Nazism? Not very much, I can tell you.
That's right, not very much.
So it's a case of whether you're way one way or way the other, and there's kind of a wheel on this thing that in the extreme they're the same.
Mhm.
Just because I am in favor of Article 1, Section 11 of the Louisiana Constitution, and because I have admittedly an extreme bias in favor of the Bill of Rights, both of the federal and the state constitutions. Now, if that makes me an extremist, then our founding fathers were extremists, and you better be glad they were extremists, because we wouldn't be here today if it were not for that. I don't think that's extreme. I'm an extreme constitutionalist.
Well, Judge, there's nothing in the world wrong with that, because all we want to do is protect what we have as American citizens. We want to be able to speak freely. We want to be, just like something else has been totally misconstrued, is separation of church and state. That appears nowhere in the Constitution. That came from a letter. We're supposed to have freedom of religion. That's what we're supposed to have.
Well, incidentally, let's get on another subject for just a second. Do you know what happened in the debate in Georgia last night?
Yes, go ahead.
Tell me about it.
Well, our friend Alan Keyes was handcuffed and forcibly carried out of a television studio down there.
Yeah, they didn't want him on the program.
Didn't want him on the program.
You ever heard Alan Keyes speak?
One of the great speakers in America today.
He is absolutely dynamite. He is fantastic.
Many of you saw him on our program a few weeks ago.
Well, that's right. We did.
Yeah,
We did
sure
have
did.
excerpts from his talk. He means what he says. He says it with such deep meaning. You know that it comes from within him. I think it was a crying shame for
a presidential candidate to be treated like that.
The police took him, handcuffed him, rode him around for about 30 minutes, so he was definitely out of the debate. I think he could have cleaned some of their clocks, incidentally.
Probably.
And then after that, dumped him near a public telephone, and he had to call the mayor of Atlanta to come and get him, which he did.
Good for Alan.
The stiffing of freedom of speech by excluding a presidential candidate that believes in and preaches family values and the importance of deterioration of America by lessening of the values of the family and the home is just outrageous. I think that television station is perfectly horrible. They did say they would absolutely not press any charges against him. I should think not.
Well, you know, Judge, that's an example of things that are happening all over our country. And literally, if crazy, crack-brain bills like this anti-terrorism bill, which essentially is a government terror bill against its own citizens.
Well, here's a Second Amendment scholar named Dave Koppel, who says you can read every line of this very lengthy House bill or its Senate counterpart, and you'll not find a single thing that would have prevented the Oklahoma City bombing, the Arizona train derailment. Nobody has been able to pin that on anybody yet. But you'll find many ways in which ordinary American citizens will be forced to surrender their rights as some sort of symbolic sacrifice to the memory of Oklahoma City and President Clinton's determination to show that he can, quote, do something about crime. Do something, whether it's right or wrong. It doesn't make any difference. Just do something.
Well, that is, we all know that is one of the most terrible things you can do. If you don't know what to do something.
Johnny, isn't it already against the law to blow up a building?
It is.
Isn't it already against the law to derail trains?
I think it is.
I don't understand the necessity of a multiplicity of laws covering the same subject. What we need to do is get to enforcing some of these laws and incarcerating some of the criminals. And there's some information about that in here, too.
Well, what I want to mention, something goes along with this. Friends, this is really important. We are living in some strange and uncertain times. You know, now I can think of no time it would be better to be able to protect your family or yourself in some sort of civil unrest or breakdown. You know, right now the Chinese are massing troops next to their border on the water there with Taiwan.
Next to the Straits of
Next
Taiwan.
to the Straits of Taiwan, right there on the edge of their country. The Chinese, as we understand it, have threatened Clinton if Clinton interferes with. It looks like they're going to try and take back Taiwan. Well, you know, Judge, that's going to be a severe fight. If the Taiwanese have a pretty darn strong military. You know, the Chinese have even talked about sending a nuclear warhead into Los Angeles if Clinton interferes. And, you know, Clinton, I just can't imagine someone more ill-prepared than Clinton for any sort of international crisis.
Now, let me tell you about some of the degradation in our own military. As some of you know, I have been a reserve officer for many years. I'm retired now. I served 3 years active duty in World War II. I stayed active in the reserve, took a chance on being called up in Korea and in Vietnam and so forth. But I have been to seminars, senior officer seminars, where actually the topic of discussion, and listen to this is horrifying. How many cities would we be willing to lose to nuclear destruction before we got around to retaliating? What do you think about that?
Well, I would think the proper answer would be none.
I jumped out of my seat about that.
Yeah.
And raised all manner of cane. I don't think I was very popular at that particular seminar. Maybe there were a lot of people that agreed with me and just didn't want to speak up. There are some bills, and Gun Owners of America is doing a great job. I can tell you that. Maybe they're wrong occasionally. They may have been wrong about this particular legislator. I don't know. I'm going to find out. But they are the most militant, no compromise force in the United States today, supporting our right to keep and bear arms, supporting our right of free speech, supporting our Fourth Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, that are very, very important. Our founding fathers were men of unbelievable intellect. You might say extreme intellect. You know, that term extreme has gotten to be, as one of our presidential candidates said, it gotten to be a cuss word in Washington. Well, our founding fathers saw the abuses that could come from a tyrannical government, and they sought to do something about it. And any effort to try to water down or change or mess with the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution, or the Declaration of Rights in the Louisiana Constitution, or I suppose the similar provisions in other state constitutions, is absolutely wrong.